Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 2nd chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising, and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea. For so it has been written by the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel.'" Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Here ends the reading. This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Many of you know that I grew up in Pittsburgh. And there were many families in Pittsburgh who made vast fortunes during the Industrial Revolution. You'll know some of these names: the Carnegies, the Fricks, the Mellons. And those are the well-known names. But there was another family named the Buells who left a particular mark in the city. The Buells built a planetarium on the north side, where I grew up, as a center for science and astronomy. Inside was a great domed room with seating in the round, like the one in the recent movie La La Land. Our grade school classes all went there once a year to watch the sky show, projected on that domed ceiling. One year, the show was named The Journey of the Magi, which put forth a theory of the star in the east that the scriptures say guided the wise men. It began with the modern night skies and stars and planets projected onto the ceiling. Then it explained that the ancient Zoroastrians kept meticulous records about the heavens and the star positions, which move ever so slightly each year as the universe expands. It made a calculation, and then, almost magically, the whole night sky shifted to where the position of the stars were in 1 AD. It further demonstrated that a rare clusters of planets aligned in the form of a bright star, moving from the east to the west. And further, that for a time they vanished behind the moon and then reappeared, just as the scriptures record. The story of the three wise men, or the three kings, or the Magi, has fascinated countless generations. While the scriptures never state that there were three kings, the early church assigned it the number corresponding to the three gifts of gold, incense, and myrrh. The early church fathers, as they were referred to then, gave them names: Casper, Melchior, and Balthasar. They also suggested that at least one of them was black, what we now refer to in our country as African American, since they had come from the East or from Africa. They may have been kings or rulers of the priestly class of the Zoroastrians. One fact is written in the scripture seems to indicate vast wealth. The Gospel of Matthew, which we just heard, records, and they opened their treasure chests, offering gifts from their bounties. The church has always taught that the three gifts have important significance. The gift of gold signifies that this child was a king. For centuries, only the most wealthy rulers owned gold. The gift of incense, burned only in the temple, signified that this child was God. We remember that Christians were burned at the stake because they wouldn't burn incense to the emperor, acknowledging that he was a god. And the gift of myrrh and embalming ointment, a rather gruesome gift for a newborn baby, signified that this child would die. Before modern refrigeration and embalming fluids, myrrh was a perfumed ointment rubbed onto the skin to mask the odors of decomposition. Epiphany means manifestation, a showing, or a revealing. In this case, the revelation of the glory of God. Just as the universe is ever expanding, and the stars in the heavens are always moving, God is also expanding the universe of this Son, incarnate in human flesh and born of Mary. God begins with the shepherds at the bottom of the social order of the time, and today expands the exposure to this King of Kings to wise, learned, prestigious, wealthy denizens at the top of the social order. These magi from the East were Gentiles and practiced religions foreign to the Jewish monotheists. Yet God uses them to inform King Herod and all of Jerusalem of the birth of the long-awaited Messiah. God reaches to great lengths to ensure that all people receive the good news of Christ's birth, even using people of exotic beliefs as messengers. Today's Isaiah text speaks of wealth. The Psalm speaks of wealth. The Gospel speaks of wealth, all centered around the gifts of gold and incense and kingly fortunes. Some of us here in our wealthy community named Montclair share in this worldly wealth through hard work, determination, and ability, and in some cases through family privilege. But the epistle of St. Paul to the church at Ephesus also speaks of wealth, which far surpasses all the gold and treasures and stock options this world can offer. St. Paul states that in his preaching and sharing the good news to the Gentiles of Ephesus, they are coming to share in the boundless riches of Christ. Here is where rich and poor, comfortable and struggling, generous and penniless all meet together, sharing the riches that moth and rust cannot corrupt, nor can thieves break in and steal. These are the treasures in heaven, freely given to all believers who worship and adore the child, the King, the God of the Magi, who will die to save us from our spiritual poverty and share with us the riches of the gospel. O come, all ye faithful. You may not be Carnegies or Fricks or Mellons or Buells, but you can bring your gifts to your King, your gifts of time, your gifts of talent, and your gifts from your bank accounts. I mean from your treasure chests. Then prepare to receive the boundless riches of the grace of God, the free gift in God, Jesus Christ, your Lord and your King. Blessed Epiphany.